Hello everyone, I'm the Doom Dog, and today I'm very excited because I get to talk about an entry into one of my favorite franchises of all time, Fallout. 10 years ago, Bethesda released a little game called Fallout 3. Today is its 10th anniversary, and I wanted to celebrate that by taking a look back at it. It's a big game, and there's a lot of ground to cover, so let's get started. Initially upon release, Fallout 3 was widely praised as a masterpiece. It was hailed by fans and critics alike as an excellent role-playing game. It would go on to sell close to 10 million copies and would be the most successful game in the series as well as the most successful Bethesda game up to that point. It was praised as a worthy addition to the Fallout franchise, and it brought a ton of new fans to the series. In more recent years, however, the opinion of many fans seems to have turned on this game. Many people have begun to see this game as either inferior or flat out bad, especially since the release of Fallout 4, which faced a much larger backlash than 3 did. It's almost as if the problems that 4 had seemed to affect people's opinions on 3. Why did people turn on this game? What caused this backlash? Does Fallout 3 deserve it? Or is it still a great game? Let's start back at the beginning. In the early 2000s, Black Isle Studios started working on a third main entry in the Fallout series. They had previously worked on Fallout 2, so expectations for a third entry in the franchise were pretty high among series fans. This team knew exactly what they were doing, and many fans considered 2 to be even better than the first game was. There was reason to be excited about this game. However, Interplay, the publisher for the series up to that point, as well as the people funding the project, were falling on hard times financially. Fallout 1 and 2 had been successes for them, but they had a string of games around that time that were less successful, between a failed sports games division and a console games such as Heart of Darkness and Wild 9 failing to live up to sales expectations. Interplay was having trouble staying afloat. The company eventually had to cancel this version of Fallout 3. The game was pretty deep into development at this time, with it being suggested that it was at least halfway done at the time of cancellation. In an effort to keep themselves from going bankrupt, Interplay started looking for someone to purchase the Fallout franchise from them, and 2 companies showed interest in the series. Both Troika Games and Bethesda showed interest in the Fallout franchise. Troika was a game development studio that was known for creating CRPGs. A lot of employees of Troika had worked on Fallout 1 and 2, and this excited fans at the time. Bethesda, of course, won out in 2004, and they began work on a new entry in the series. It is probably best that Troika did not wind up with the series, as their doors would permanently close in early 2005. The Fallout franchise might have died there. I think a lot of fans hold resentment toward Fallout 3 for not being the game that Black Isle was originally working on. This is unfair to the Fallout 3 that we did get. Bethesda has nothing to do with the Black Isle game being canned. We should examine what we did get on its own merits. It's interesting to note that a build of the Black Isle version, codenamed Van Buren, did leak onto the internet after this, so you can give it a try and see what it was like if you wish. This is your spoiler warning. I'm going to spoil a ton of things about the game after this point. If, for some reason, you have not played this 10-year-old game and would like to do so, this is your warning. A lot of content for this game will be spoiled from here on out as we dive deep into this game and its world. You have been warned. When you first boot up Fallout 3, you are greeted with an Ink Spot song much like the first game in the series. I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire plays as the camera pulls back from a vacuum tube on a radio on a bus to reveal a destroyed world. This is similar to the intro to Fallout 1. It eventually reveals a person in power armor, and this is where Ron Perlman's opening monologue starts. War never changes. The opening monologue keeps it simple. It gives you basic information to set up the world that the game exists in. It is more like the first game than the second's lengthy opening monologue. It has just enough information. In 2077, a nuclear war destroyed the world, but mankind survived by fleeing to massive underground vaults. People would eventually emerge from these vaults to find the destroyed world and would start trying to rebuild. You were born in one of these vaults. Vault 101, no one ever enters Vault 101, and no one ever leaves. The game proper starts with your character being born. It is all done from the first-person perspective, and it lets you choose whether you will be male or female. You enter your name, and it switches over to a machine that is designed to predict what you will look like as an adult. This is your character creation screen, and it is a rather creative way to go about it that feels more natural than character creation usually does. It lets you choose your hair, your facial hair, your eye color, and numerous other facial features. It's all pretty in-depth for the time, but it does fail in comparison to character creation options offered in Fallout 4. After creating your character, your mother passes away. You are taken out of the room. Well, you can ask other characters about your mother later on in the game. The game never expects you to care about this character. She only has a few lines before she dies, and you never get the chance to know her. The game handles the death of a family member much better than Fallout 4 does. The game flashes forward and picks up 1 year later when you are a baby. Your dad beckons you to a playpen and leaves you in it as he steps out for a few minutes. Open the playpen and wander over to a book on the floor. It's a children's book called Your Special that introduces the special stat system. Special stands for strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. The game gives you a brief description of each stat that lets you put 5 points into the stat of your choice. Choose what stats you want to improve and call it done. Your dad comes back into the room and he reads you your mother's favorite Bible verse. The verse mentions the water of life, as water is a central theme in this game. The game flashes forward yet again. This time you skip 9 years into the future to your 10th birthday. The overseer's daughter, a young girl named Amada, and your father have set up a surprise birthday party for you. At this party, you are given a Pip-Boy. The Pip-Boy lets you keep track of your stats, your skills, your inventory, your quests, the map, and any messages that you might pick up. You can use it as a flashlight, and you can listen to radio broadcasts through it as well. It is extremely important, and you will consult it often as you play. Amada talks to you and wishes you a happy birthday. She gives you a Grognak the Barbarian comic. The robot Andy destroys the cake. An old woman named Old Lady Palmer gives you a sweet roll, a running gag in Bethesda games. And a man named Stanley gives you a ball cap. Butch, another child at the party, stops you and says he's hungry. He demands you give him your sweet roll. This is the game's way of introducing you to player choice. The choice is of no consequence, but you have multiple options of what you can do here. You can offer to split it with him. You can say Old Lady Palmer said you do not have to share. You can give him the whole thing. You can spit on it so he won't want it, or you can tell him to go fuck himself. Make your choice. He wound up starting a fight with me, and the security officer Gomez breaks it up. At this point, your dad says that he has a surprise for you down in the reactor level. Before you can leave, Amada asks you about the fight, and Beatrice, another female resident of the vault, stops you on your way out the door and gives you a poem as a gift. Read it if you want. It is a rather depressing piece. When you do reach the reactor level, you get stopped by your father's assistant, a man named Jonas. He teases you by saying that children were not allowed on this level, and he says that you no longer have to take crap like that from any grown-ups. The surprise your father has been waiting to give you turns out to be a BB gun. He takes you to a makeshift range that he has set up for you to practice with. This is the game's way of introducing combat mechanics. It plays like a first-person shooter. Shoot the targets that your dad set up, and a rad roach will eventually wander out into the makeshift shooting range. This gives you a bit of practice on a live enemy. Take down the rad roach, and your dad wants a picture with you. As soon as the camera flashes, it fades to white, and you flash forward another 6 years. 16-year-old you is in your dad's office, and he's telling you that it's time to take the GOAT exam. GOAT stands for Generalized Occupational Aptitude Test, and everyone in the vault has to take it when they're 16. You can talk to your dad a bit here, ask him a few questions, and try to talk your way out of the test, but he sends you off to take it regardless. The test is the game's way of introducing the skills system, and it suggests skills to you based on your answers. Anyway, after leaving the office, you run into Butch and his friends bothering Amada. They are calling themselves the Tunnel Snakes and acting like a game. They are pestering her and refusing to leave her alone. There's multiple ways of dealing with this issue. You could talk to Wally Mack and get him to leave. You can pick a fight with them. You can try to talk Butch out of it as well. You will gain karma for getting rid of them, the game's introduction to the karma system. We'll talk more about that later in the gameplay section. Anyway, go into the exam room and talk to Mr. Broach. You can skip the test if you wish, or you can sit down and take it. I decided to sit down and take it. The entire exam is only 10 questions long anyway. There are some good bits of humor in it, and there are no wrong answers. Getting your results recommends skills for you to tag, but if you are unsatisfied with those skills, however, you can choose your own skills to tag, as I did. This is the final bit of character creation that the game makes you do. After leaving the exam room, the game flashes forward another 3 years. Amada wakes you up, and she is in a panic. She tells you that your father left the vault, and that the security is looking for you. She offers you a gun to help you find your way out of the vault as well, but you can refuse to take it, if you wish. If you refuse to take the gun, she will pull it on security guards as they are helping her father interrogate her a bit later on. After she leaves, exit the room, and you will eventually run into Butch. He is desperate, he's in a panic, and he wants your help. He tells you that his mom is under attack by rad roaches and that he is scared of them. You have yet another choice here. You can run in and save her, you can tell Butch to fuck off, or you can encourage him to save her himself by giving him your BB gun. You can even kill her if you want. I chose to save her, and he gives you his Tunnel Snake's jacket for it. When you run into Officer Gomez, he stops you and informs you that Jonas is dead, and that the Overseer's men killed him. He said you've always been nice to him, and he's always liked you, and he will pretend that he never saw you. He lets you go. Jonas's body is in your dad's office, and he has a tape on him that your father recorded. On this tape, your father says that it is his wish that you do not leave the vault because you are safe here. Well, things didn't turn out how he planned, so we have no choice but to leave. When you start approaching the Overseer's office, you will find him in a nearby room interrogating Amada. You have another choice here. You can try to sneak by her and hope that she will be okay, or you can enter the room and deal with him and his guards. This may result in you having to kill the Overseer, and he will not be happy about it. Remember, your choices do have consequences. When you reach the Overseer's office, it is locked. By this point, you should have a bobby pin to pick the lock, if you wish. If you search around, though, you can find a key to unlock it. This is the game teaching you that you can find alternative solutions to problems, which it reinforces in the Overseer's office. There's a terminal that you can hack. The password is on a piece of paper nearby, so you can skip the hacking as well. Anyway, there are a few journal entries on the terminal that you can read. They reveal that the vault door has been opened in the past, as they are aware of a nearby destroyed town called Springvale, and another populated town a little bit further out called Megaton. Perhaps you should go there after having left the vault. Either way, the terminal opens the secret tunnel leading to the vault's entrance. As you're about to leave the vault, Amada catches up to you and talks to you one last time. How you acted earlier determines how this will go. Did you kill her father or intervene? I did not, and she was nice to me. You can offer to take her with you, but she refuses. After the steel door closes, exit the tunnel leading to the entrance of the vault. The game will have you finalize your character. If you are unsatisfied with any choice for your character thus far, Make your changes here. This is your last chance. When you step out into the real world for the first time, you are on a cliff overlooking the town of Springvale. Your vision starts off blurry and your eyes slowly adjust to the sunlight. The world outside is revealed in one of my favorite moments in any video game that I have ever played. This is such an impressive and well-composed shot, and the fact that the game makes you earn it with an hour or so spent in the vault leading up to this moment makes it even better. It is absolutely amazing. This moment is what the first Fallout game could only describe through text. I love it every time I play it, and it is something that I will never forget. After you leave the vault, the first place you're likely to go is Springvale. This first town was completely decimated by nuclear bombs, and it shows just how hard Washington, D.C. was hit during the war with China. In Springvale, you get introduced to the Enclave, as there is an iBot floating back and forth. It is playing patriotic music and propaganda from someone named John Henry Eden, who claims to be the president. This is actually a radio station that you can listen to. Anyway, if you follow the sign on the other side of town, it will eventually lead you to a town called Megaton. The game does not flat out tell you to go here, but it does strongly hint that this is probably the first place you should go to. Megaton is a fascinating town. It is a community surrounded by walls built out of scrap and old airplane parts. The entrance has a gate that is lifted up by an old airplane turbine, and there is a sniper perch above the entrance with a sniper guarding the town as well. Megaton is also notable for having a water pump and running water to the various houses and buildings. There's plenty to do here as well, with some pretty major side quests and backstory to learn. Take your time, talk to people around town, and you can learn a lot about the town, its people, and how everything operates. As you explore, you find out exactly why it's called Megaton. In a crater near the back, there is an unexploded nuclear bomb. The bomb lies in a pool of water, and there is a man named Confessor Cromwell standing beside the bomb preaching. He leads a religious group called the Children of Adam that operate in Megaton. They effectively worship the bomb, and I am sure that this is meant to be a reference to Beneath the Planet of the Apes. When you first enter the city, you are immediately greeted by a man named Lucas Sims. He says that he is town sheriff. You can be rude to him and fight him right off the bat if you wish. I chose not to do this. If you ask him about your dad, he will say he does not know anything. If you promise to help him with the bomb, he is much more willing to discuss your dad, however. I agreed to defuse the bomb, and this starts the quest Power of the Atom. He tells you to talk to Moriarty at his saloon. When you find Moriarty at his saloon, he recognizes you immediately. He says that it has been a long time and that your father was here, but he's gone now. He also mentions that you were not born in the vault. How odd. He says your father brought you to Vault 101 to keep you safe shortly after you were born. He mentions brainwashing that goes on in the vault. We certainly saw that when we took the GOAT test. He will tell you where your father went, but he will not do it for free. He wants 100 caps. Once again, you have choices here. There is an answer on his terminal in his saloon. There's a little side quest you can do for him, or you can just gather the caps yourself. Choose whichever method you wish to obtain the information. As for me, I chose to gather the caps and return to him for the info. Upon doing so, he might raise the price on you, but you can talk him back down via a speech check. He tells you that your dad went to the Washington, D.C. ruins to visit the Galaxy News radio building and the DJ that runs the place. He says you should go there next. When you approach the Galaxy News radio building, a woman in power armor greets you. Her name is Sentinel Lyons. This is your first run-in with the DC chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel. She says that DC is a war zone and civilians do not belong here. The Brotherhood is guarding the Galaxy News radio building, but the area has been overrun with super mutants lately. Her and her team were sent here to deal with it. You can tag along, but you need to keep your head down and stay out of the way. Sarah Lyons is the leader of a special ops group within the Washington, D.C. chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel. They call themselves the Lions Pride, and it is their job to take on dangerous missions that the normal recruits cannot handle. They were dispatched out here to clear out the super mutants around the Galaxy News radio building because the Brotherhood of Steel sees it as an important location that is well worth protecting. After you talk to her, she talks to her squad and tells them that you will be tagging along with them as they make their march toward the GNR building. There's a detonation on the ground in the alley you are standing in, but you cannot wear power armor yet. There are, however, energy cells you can pick up. Fight your way through the super mutant hordes and move your way through the ruins of a school that leads into a plaza with the GNR building in it. In the plaza, a super mutant behemoth attacks. Pick up the fat man off the dead Brotherhood knight and use it to kill him. Enter the building. After you make your way up the stairs to the broadcast booth, you get to talk to Three Dog, the DJ for the game's other, much better radio station. Three Dog is one of my favorite characters in the entire series. His over-the-top mannerisms make him a fun-as-hell DJ to listen to on the radio, and he just oozes charm. He's an extremely likable character and a great DJ. He figures out pretty quick exactly who you are, as he has been reporting on someone who came out of the vault prior to this, and he figures that you were looking for your father. It just so happens he did speak with your dad, and he knows exactly where he went. Before he will tell you where he went, however, he wants a favor from you. He wants a new relay satellite so his broadcast signal can reach all corners of the capital wasteland again. You can skip this quest if you wish. There is a speech check where you can convince him to tell you where your dad went without doing this quest. You can also kill him. This comes with a consequence, though. All the news reporting that he does will be lost, and he will be replaced by a woman who says very little in between tracks played on Galaxy News Radio. I chose to do the side quest. He sends you to the Museum of Technology to grab the satellite off the Virgo 2 lunar lander and attach it to the top of the Washington Monument. Travel through the subways and you will eventually arrive at the mall. The place is a fucking war zone with super mutants everywhere. Fight whatever you feel the need to and make your way across the mall to the Museum of Technology, one of the best dungeons in a game full of great dungeons. When you enter the museum, you will find that it's full of super mutants as well, and you have to fight your way through multiple exhibits. This place is worth exploring because there's a lot you can do here. There's a lot of loot as well to reward people that do explore. There's a lot to see here as well. As you explore, you will eventually come to the lunar lander, grab the satellite and escape. Once you get back to the mall, make your way over to the Washington Monument. There's a wall built around it, and it is being guarded by the Brotherhood of Steel. Make your way inside to the elevator to the top, place the satellite on the top, and make your way back down. Once you get back outside, you should just be able to fast travel straight to the GNR building. Enter it and talk to Three Dog again. He's very happy that his signal can be heard clear across the DC wasteland yet again. He says he thinks very highly of your dad, and he mentions something called Project Purity. He says your dad made his way to Rivet City to visit someone named Dr. Lee. He offers to let you crash in his building anytime. Rivet City turns out to be a beached aircraft carrier that was broken in half. A bunch of people decided to clean it out and establish a city in it. Approach the intercom and ask to be let in. The bridge will extend and you will make your way into the city. Go into the science labs. Dr. Lee is here. She recognizes you as well. She says that you resemble your father. She worked with both your parents years earlier. Your father left when you were born, and she wound up working with the Rivet City Science Lab. Your father abandoned their work, leaving everyone else with no choice but to leave as well. Your father was a very driven and determined man back then, and he had two primary focuses, making Project Purity work and your mother. After your mother's death, she believes he just gave up. She says that your mother was a good woman and that she died due to complications of childbirth. They did everything they could to save her. Project Purity is a simple idea. Provide clean drinking water to the entire capital wasteland. The goal was to purify the water in the Potomac River Basin and clean it of all its radiation. The project turned out to be more difficult than anticipated. They got it to work on small scales, but they could never reproduce it on a much larger scale. Your dad left the project after you were born, and he took you to Vault 101 to raise you away from the horrors of the outside world. Without your father, the Brotherhood of Steel, who had been guarding the project, decided that it was not worth their effort. They abandoned it, forcing everyone else to leave as well. Dr. Lee assumed James sent you here, and she is surprised to learn that you're looking for him instead. He had come to talk to her earlier, and he insisted that they start working back up on the project. She told him that too much time had passed and that it would never work. Your father did not listen. He said he could prove that it would work, and he headed off the old lab, which is in the Jefferson Memorial. As you might expect, the memorial is filled with super mutants that you will have to deal with as you explore it. Your dad is nowhere to be found, which is probably a good thing, that given that super mutants are running around everywhere. As you search the place, you will come across a few voice recordings of your dad. The rotunda contains 3 tapes that he recorded recently that lets you know where he is. Journal entry 8 says that he discovered an item called the GECK, a throwback to Fallout 2, created by a scientist named Braun that worked for Vault Tech. Braun was reserved in Vault 112, and your father traveled to this vault to try to find any clues that he could get about the GECK. You also learned that your dad never quit working on Project Purity, even after he entered Vault 101. He would sneak away, searching the vault for any materials that he could find that might help, and he broke into the Overseer's office once. He hacked into the Overseer's terminal, gained access to his secret files, and found out about Dr. Braun. He learned about Braun's work on a project called the GECK, the Garden of Eden Creation Kit. Vault 112 is your next stop. It is west of Evergreen Mills, and the entrance is hidden beneath an old garage. West of Evergreen Mills, you will find a place called Smith Casey's Garage. In the back of the garage, there is a switch to open a panel on the floor. Enter the opened hatch on the floor and go down to the entrance of Vault 112. Open the steel door and make your way into the vault. Upon entering Vault 112, you are greeted by a robot that hands you a Vault 112 jumpsuit and tells you to enter something called a Tranquility Lounger. Put on the jumpsuit and make your way into the vault. The Tranquility Lounger is a pod that places the user in a state of suspended animation and enters them into a virtual reality world. It is a simulation called Tranquility Lane. Tranquility Lane is the most unique part of this game. It is a simulated, idealized version of 1950s Americana-style neighborhood that you might expect to see in an old TV show or something. The people have been stuck in this virtual world for more than 200 years at this point, and most of the citizens seem to be blissfully unaware of what is really going on. They believe this simulation is real life. The entire thing is black and white, a stark contrast from the rest of the game, and happy-go-lucky music plays in the background. Attempting to bring up your Pip-Boy brings up an old wristwatch with the Vault Boy on it. You appear in this world as a young boy. Talking to most of the people in the simulation will get you nowhere. You can have basic conversations about things like the weather, but they will get confused when you try to point out that this is just a simulation. They think you're crazy. The only 2 people that seem to act differently are Old Lady Dithers and a young girl named Betty. All the houses belong to the people here except one. That one is labeled Abandoned House. Anyway, George Newsbaum, one of the residents of the vault, tells you that Betsy wishes to speak to you. Beyond this, no one seems to be alarmed that a young child randomly appeared in their neighborhood. They do not even seem to notice, as if you have always been there or something. It is rather eerie. You can ask them about your dad, but none of them know where he is. Old Lady Dithers seems to know what's going on. She recognizes who you are immediately, and she knows that none of this is real. She wants the simulation to end. She tells you that Betty is in charge of the simulation and that she is actually a man and is very evil. Betty is Dr. Braun, and Braun believes himself to be God here. Old Lady Dithers believes that there is a failsafe terminal in the abandoned house, and she wants you to find it and activate the failsafe. The rest of the citizens of Tranquility Lane think Old Lady Dithers is nuts. If you decide to speak to Betty, she knows of your dad. She knows where he is, but she will not tell you unless you do her bidding. She first tells you to find Timmy Nesbaum and make him cry. He's another child in Tranquility Lane. This will not be the only thing that she asks you to do, though. There will be other things before he will give you the information that you need and let you go. You have two options here. You can go with Dr. Braun's game and do his bidding. If you do it this way, eventually he will let you go. You can also go to the abandoned house and try to find the failsafe. This involves a puzzle in which you touch a variety of objects in a set order to reveal a secret terminal. Here's the thing, if you activate the failsafe, the simulation ends. The citizens of Vault 112 will die in real life. If you go through with Dr. Braun's plan, he has you torture and murder the citizens of Vault 112, but they come back to life with no memory of it. This option leaves them trapped in the simulation. There's no happy ending here. Pick whichever method you choose to get through this. I chose the puzzle and activated the failsafe. When you gain access to the terminal, you can read Braun's notes from previous simulations that he ran, and the failsafe itself turns out to be a Chinese invasion. Failsafe that sees Chinese soldiers showing up in Tranquility Lane. They start gunning down citizens without mercy. Return to Braun and he's not happy with you at all. He says the subjects will all die and he will be left here alone. He says that you ruined everything and that your dad has been here the whole time. The dog is your dad. He says that the GECK is an unstable design that was meant to regrow the world after a nuclear apocalypse. He created Tranquility Loungers as well, and he considers them to be his greatest achievement, probably because he can play God here. He found the GECK boring and would create his own reality. Tranquility Lane was his favorite of the various realities that he created. A door appears, and he says you are free to leave. Exit the simulation through the door, and your father will approach you. He says you saved him, and he feared being trapped there forever. He wants to go to Rivet City to discuss with Dr. Lee what he has learned from Dr. Braun. Braun says that the GECK will work. If they can find one, they can make Project Purity work. He wants you to travel back to Rivet City with him. You can use this opportunity to talk to him about a lot of the story's background details. He will talk to you about Project Purity and your mother if you do so. Run with him from Vault 112 all the way back to Rivet City and make your way to the science lab. Approach Dr. Lee and your father will start talking to her. He says that the purifier can work on a larger scale like they always wanted if they find a GECK. They can adapt it to work with the purifier. Dr. Braun confirmed this. He plans to search through the old files on the computers at Project Purity in an attempt to locate the device. The power to the facility is currently off, though. He needs Dr. Lee and her team to get it back up and running again. She agrees and gathers her team, and you have to escort them to Project Purity. If you did not 100% clear out the Jefferson Memorial earlier, your father will ask you to do so before anyone else enters the building. After clearing it out, return to him and they will enter and start working on the project immediately. As you are clearing it out, you can find various tapes that your dad recorded before he came to Vault 101. You can listen to them to get more backstory on the project and your mother. Anyway, after they enter the building, talk to your dad in the rotunda. He quotes your mother's favorite Bible verse again and says that the purifier is the waters of life and is your mother's dream. He sends you down to the lower level to activate the flood pumps to drain out water and parts of the facility. He then asks you to return to him and retrieve fuses. Head back up to the rotunda and speak to him. He'll give you the fuses. After you get the fuses from him, find the auxiliary box and place the new fuses in it. Your father will ask you to go to the mainframe. Find and boot that up. He will then inform you that there is a blockage in one of the intake pumps. Make your way into the large pipe and to the valve. Give it a turn and clear the intake valve. At this point, you will hear the sound of a vertibird approaching. Who could that be? You see a vertibird land on the platform outside of the Jefferson Memorial, and you make your way out of the pipe. You wind up in the basement of the memorial, and you find the Enclave soldiers there. The Enclave are here? This does not bode well for you. Fight your way through them and make your way to the rotunda. Upon reaching the rotunda, you see your dad and the purifier being interrogated by the Enclave, who claim to be operating under direct authority of the president. The voice that you keep hearing on the iBots and on the propaganda radio station that refers to itself as President Eden. I guess it's more than just an old audio loop or something. The Enclave officer says that the facility is now under direct control of the United States government, and he demands that you return all materials from Project Purity. Your father refuses, and the soldiers execute a couple of Dr. Lee's scientists. Your dad overloads the system and floods the room with lethal levels of radiation, sacrificing himself to try to keep the purifier out of the Enclave's hands. The officer injects himself with something just before he passes out. Talk to Dr. Lee and she will tell you about an old service tunnel that you can use to escape the memorial. As you run through the tunnels, you will fight the Enclave soldiers and feral ghouls. When you reach the other end of the tunnel, you will find that it is guarded by the Brotherhood of Steel. Exiting the tunnel finds you right in front of the Citadel, and they are hesitant to let you in until Dr. Lee demands that Elder Lyons open the door. Elder Lyons approaches Dr. Lee and says that he is surprised to see her. She tells him that they were trying to get Project Purity up and running again and it was overrun. He has heard reports of it and asks for the details. She says that it was the Enclave and that James, your father, is dead. She says that we now know how to get it up and running. He asks if the Enclave knows and she says no. She asks if there's a terminal that you can use to search for a vault that may have a GECK, and he assures her that they will get it all sorted out. Now that you have access to the Brotherhood and the Citadel, you can finally get power armor training. I would highly recommend that you do. Talk to Paladin Gunning and he will train you. This will allow you to wear the best armor in the game, so it is well worth your time to do so. If you prefer faster movement speed, though, you may want to stick with lighter armor. It's your choice, but I always go with power armor. There is a terminal in the Citadel with a list of all the vaults in the capital wasteland. Read through it and you will find out that Vault 87 was given a GECK. Find Scribe Rothschild in the Citadel's lab and speak to him about the vault and ask where it is. He has you follow him to a large map of the capital wasteland, and he shows you where the vault is. He informs you that the entrance to the vault is flooded by lethal levels of radiation, and you cannot enter it, but there may be another way. There is a series of cave tunnels called Lamplight caverns that may have a second entrance to the vault. The Brotherhood cannot help you out here as they need to focus on the Enclave, but he suggests you explore it yourself. Upon entering Lamplight Caverns, you will find a wall very close to the entrance with a closed gate. A child named McCready is at the top of the wall, and he says he's the mayor of this settlement, a town called Little Lamplight. He tells you to hold right there, and he does not seem to like adults very much, and he calls you a Mungo. He will not tell you anything about the settlement, but he does say that Vault 87 is full of big monsters that resemble people. You can guess what they are. He does know how to get to the vault through Little Lamplight, but he will not show you or even let you in. Little Lamplight is a settlement made up entirely of children housed within the Lamplight Caverns. They have books to learn and to teach with. There's a doctor who gained medical knowledge from medical books to try to keep the kids healthy. Some of the kids learn to fight so they can fight off any creatures that might wander into the caves. There is a fungus that grows naturally in the caves that serves as a food source, and it has healing properties. When the kids become adults, they have to leave the settlement for another settlement called Big Town. I can tell that Bethesda put a fair amount of thought into this settlement and how it all works. Vault 87 even has a journal entry about a guy that hears kids outside the walls of the vault, and he thinks it's voices in his head. They overlooked one major thing, though, that really bothers me. How does this settlement last past one generation? How do they get more kids to keep the settlement going and repopulate it? How do they replace the kids that leave for Big Town? This is never explained, and once you notice it, you cannot unnotice it. It always bothered me. Anyway, McCready will not let you in, and you have to convince him to do so. You have a few options here. There's a speech check that you can pass to let you in right away. If you have the Child at Heart perk, you can use it to get him to trust you and let you in. There is also a side quest that sees you going to a place called Paradise Falls and freeing some children that they took as slaves. It's a good quest, and it does have multiple ways of solving it. I chose to go through with the quest that free the children from Paradise Falls. Pick your own route here and gain entrance to Little Lamplight. McCready decides that you are okay after all, and he lets you in. There are two ways to get through Little Lamplight. There's a place called Murder Pass that leads to it, and it is full of monsters that McCready mentioned earlier. You can convince him to open the gate for you and let you through if you feel like fighting your way through it, but he mentions that there is another way. He says that there's a terminal that you can hack, but it's busted. There's a kid named Joseph who cannot fix it, but he knows the most about it. Joseph is the oldest kid in Little Lamplight, and he acts as a teacher to the other children. He is a barber. If you want to change your hairstyle, he can do that for you. He has a bunch of books that were found in Vault 87 that he uses to teach the other children. He was taking notes on a computer for any future children who might take over for him and teach after he leaves for Big Town, but he cannot access the computer anymore. No one can remember the login for it. He offers to turn it on for you and let you hack into it. This is what I chose to do, and it let me open up the locked door and enter Vault 87. Pick whichever method suits you and enter Vault 87. Vault 87 is one of the many experimental vaults. For this vault, Vault-Tec was given a bunch of forced evolutionary virus by the United States government, and the company placed a bunch of scientists to carry out experiments on the citizens of the vault. They had direct contact with the Mariposa military base, the base you visit in the first game, as they operate under its jurisdiction. This means everything that Vault-Tec did here was under the United States government control. If you played the first game, then you can guess what the FEV experience eventually led to. They created a race of super mutants, and the DC super mutants all come from this vault. They did not spread from out west. They are a completely different strain of super mutants from the ones in Fallout 1 and 2. Like the ones in California, however, they are sterile. They cannot reproduce. Unlike the Masters mutants, however, they were not created by one man for a single purpose. They have no leader. The vast majority of super mutants you will run into over the course of the game are dumb brutes, but there is one exception that you might have run into before this point. There is a more intelligent super mutant named Uncle Leo. He tried to teach the rest of the mutants to do more than killing, but they did not listen to him. They kicked him out, and this shows that they rejected a potential leader and chose to be leaderless. The FEV in the vault has run dry. The mutants know they cannot reproduce naturally, and they do not want their species to be snuffed out. Throughout the game, you will come across numerous super mutant camps where they have kidnapped human beings. They also seem to be exploring the DC ruins like they were looking for something. While it is not flat out stated in the game, I do believe that they are trying to find more FEV to subject their kidnapped humans to create more of their species so they will not wind up dying out. I believe they are trying to preserve their own race. Anyway, as you explore the vault, you will run across a few test rooms with failed experiments in them. Bloated creatures that died somewhere in between being human and being turned into super mutants. Eventually you will hear a voice from an intercom coming from one of the rooms. Upon investigating, you'll find out that a live super mutant is trapped in one of the rooms. When you go to the window to talk to him, he is surprised to see a pure human in the vault. His name is Fox, and he claims to have been trapped in this room for his entire life. He seems to be more intelligent than the other mutants, and much like Uncle Leo, the other mutants rejected him. He figures that you are looking for the GECK, and he knows where it is. He says he will help you retrieve it, but he can only do this if you free him. The chamber containing the GECK is flooded with radiation, and it is impossible to retrieve on your own. There is a maintenance door down the hall containing a console. Access the console and trip the alarm to freeing Fox and any other experiments that might be alive. You have two choices here. You can kill Fox before he leaves the room if you wish, or you can free him and accept his offer. Here's the thing though. There is a good chance that this is the first time you have met a mutant that hasn't tried to kill you. Why should you trust him? The game even points this out via letting you ask him why you should trust him. For all you know, he will try to kill you the moment that he is free. If you choose to kill him, there is a closet near the GECK with Rad X and an advanced environmental suit that will let you access the GECK without his help. Weigh your options and make your choice. I chose to free Fox. After freeing him, he thanks you for it and tells you to follow him. Fight along side by side through the vault and make your way toward the GECK. He uses the giant hammer to attack enemies with. When you reach the GECK, he has you wait while he goes in and retrieves it. When he returns, he hands it to you and says that it's time for you to part ways. He will find his own way out of the vault, take the GECK, and find your own way out. As you are about to exit the vault, you will hear a strange beeping noise. A bright light flashes before your eyes and you pass out. You wake up to Enclave soldiers entering the room, and the officer from earlier enters with them. He takes the GECK from you and orders the others to prepare you for transport. You black out. When you wake up, you find yourself in a steel jail cell with the man in there with you. His name is Colonel Autumn, and he is in command of the Enclave forces in D.C. He answers directly to President Eden. He tells you that you lost, and he demands that you give him the purifier. He honestly believes that the Enclave are the good guys, but he cannot start the purifier without the code. You can refuse to give him anything or give him fake codes. It is your choice, but President Eden will eventually interrupt the interrogation and say he wishes to speak to Autumn. Autumn leaves the room, and the president says he wishes to talk to you privately, but he wants to do it face to face. He tells you that your possessions are in a locker by the door, and he sets you free and unlocks the door. Grab your stuff and exit the room. An Enclave officer stops you as soon as you leave, and he says that you're supposed to be in your cell. Tell him that the president wants to talk to you, and he will confirm it and let you go. You are free to explore the Enclave base at this point. There are a lot of experiments that they are working on, and you can see a lot of great environmental storytelling in this place. There is even a man from Megaton in one of the cells. Eventually, Colonel Autumn tells the Enclave officers to ignore the president's orders and to shoot you on sight, and you will have to fight your way through the base to make your way to President Eden's office. If you do enough exploring, you can find Colonel Autumn's room and read his notes and listen to his tapes. You can get the shutdown computer for an important computer as well, so it is worth exploring and learning more about the Enclave and Autumn himself. When you finally reach President Eden, you discover that he's a Zax model computer, a throwback to the computer that you could talk to in the basement of the Glow in Fallout 1. This, to me, is a fascinating plot twist. I've always liked it. I never saw it coming when I first played this game. I just assumed that Eden was a human being, just like the rest of the Enclave. Anyway, Eden wants you to carry out a mission for him on behalf of the Enclave to secure a future for the country. He believes that the United States cannot return to its former glory while it is overrun with mutant creatures of all kinds. The Enclave does not have the manpower to clear out the super mutants, ghouls, and various other mutated creatures, even if they were to work with the Brotherhood of Steel. He mentions a previous failure to accomplish this, a nod at Fallout 2, and the Enclave attempts to do the same thing in that game. The purifier can be modified to be deadly to mutant life in the wasteland, and he wants you to do this. He gives you a container of modified FEV to place into the purifier, and it will do the rest of the work. Here you have another choice. You can grab the container and leave if you wish. You can also use the shutdown code you found earlier, or you can talk him down to convince him that his logic is flawed through speech checks. If you do this, he will self-destruct and will destroy the Enclave base as well. I always liked that you could talk him down, and that is what I chose to do here. Grab the FEV, make your choice, and leave the room. As you're exiting the facility, there are death claws in cages that you can set free to fight the Enclave soldiers if you choose. Upon exiting the base, you learn that it's called Raven Rock, and you see a fox running toward you. Go talk to him, and he says he came to rescue you. He's now packing a Gatling laser. He saw you get captured by the Enclave, and he figured that since you saved him, he would try to save you. You can ask him to be your companion if you wish. I did. If you chose to kill him, obviously this does not occur. Make your way back to the Brotherhood Citadel and into the lab. You will find Sarah Lyons talking with her father about plans to retake the purifier from the Enclave. She says that the longer they wait, the stronger the Enclave defenses will get, and you should attack sooner rather than later. Elder Lyons says that they do not have the manpower to attack the purifier right now. She wants to leave now. He believes the risk is too great. Scribe Rothschild says that the purifier is worthless without the GECK, so they have some time before they have to attack. She does not like it, but she accepts this reasoning. Yeah, about that GECK thing. Elder Lyons turns to you and asks how your mission went. Tell him that you were captured and that the GECK is in the hands of the Enclave. This immediately changes his mind, and he decides that you need to take back the purifier as soon as possible. He turns back to Sarah and tells her that the Pride will lead the charge to the purifier. He asks Scribe Rothschild if it is ready. Rothschild says that they solved the power problems that they were having, but there is a lot of testing that they need to do. Lyons interrupts him and asks if it will work. He does not know. Do you remember seeing the giant robot when you first entered the lab in the Citadel? Well, that is coming with you. Before you leave, Sarah makes you an honorary member of the Brotherhood of Steel and the Lion's Pride, believing you have more than proven yourself to be worthy. She offers you some power armor. You can refuse it if you wish. I did, because the power armor that I was wearing by this point was more powerful than what she gives you. Make any final preparations for the end of the game now, and let her know that you're ready to go. She will explain the plan, and the Brotherhood will fire up Liberty Prime. Liberty Prime is a giant robot built during the war with China to be used during the liberation of Anchorage, Alaska. And he's fucking awesome. He shouts pro-American, pro-freedom, and anti-communist slogans, throws nukes like footballs, and shoots an eye laser. He's a gigantic, freedom-loving, commie-killing robot, so basically the coolest thing ever. Some have suggested that he's a parody of McCarthyism. These people need a free helicopter ride. This robot makes Pinochet proud. Anyway, the March to the Purifier is one hell of a badass moment. It is another moment in this game that I will never forget. It is fucking glorious. Liberty Prime is pretty damn good at dispatching enemies as he makes his way to the Purifier, so you can do as much or as little killing as you want, really. You can hang back and let him do most of the work, or you can get right into the thick of it. It's entirely up to you. When you get close to the Purifier, you discover that the Enclave have built up a force field around the building. it turns out to be no match for Liberty Prime, as he makes quick work of it. He destroys it and allows you and your party to enter the Jefferson Memorial. Dispatch the enemies outside of it and do just that. Fight your way through the building to the rotunda and enter it. When you enter the rotunda, you run into Colonel Autumn again. He escaped Raven Rock before it blew up, and he is here to confront you one last time. The game gives you another choice here. You can kill him, or you can talk him down and let him live. He has already lost either way. Make your choice as to how to deal with him and the other soldiers in the room as well. Dr. Lee contacts you over the intercom and tells you that you need to start the purifier right now because pressure is building up. It needs to be released or it's going to explode and it will kill you all. Sarah Lyons turns to you and says that one of you needs to go in and turn it on. That person is not coming back out because, as you may remember, your dad flooded the place with lethal amounts of radiation. Right here is where the game introduced a massive plot hole. The original ending had you going into the purifier or Sarah Lyons doing it. One of you died in the ending either praised you as a hero or chastised you as a coward, depending upon which of these two you chose. This would be fine if it were not for one thing. You can have a companion with you. See, there are 3 companions in the game that are immune to radiation. Fox, the super mutant, Sharon, the ghoul, and RL3, the Mr. Gutsy robot. Any of those 3 could go into the purifier, start it up, and no one would have to die. In the original ending, however, they would flat out tell you no. They would insist it is your destiny to go into the chamber and effectively sending you or Lyons to your death. This made no damn sense at all. If, however, you have the Broken Steel DLC installed, this is fixed. You can ask one of your companions to go into the chamber and they will gladly accept. I had Fox do it on my playthrough and he says that it would make more sense so no one has to die. Obviously this is not where the game actually ends if you have the DLC installed because Broken Steel extends the main campaign. I'm glad that this plot hole got filled, but they did not get Ron Perlman to come in and record new lines for the ending. It still chastises you for sending your companion in. For fuck's sake. Sorry, Bethesda. I just don't like dying that much and want to have a better option. The ending you get depends on a few factors. Who enters the purifier and turns it on? Were you a good guy to the wasteland, a bad one, or somewhere in between? Did you decide to poison the water supply with the modified FEV that you got from President Eden? Unlike Fallout 1 and 2, you do not get slides that show closure on the various major side quests that you do over the course of the game. In this regard, the ending is rather disappointing. Originally, you were unable to play the game beyond the ending, but Broken Steel lets you do this. The main quest does have good moments to it, but it can at times seem a little lacking in terms of writing. The main story does feel smaller in scope than the previous games, and most of the game's best writing is in its side quests. The biggest problem that the game faces is the combat. The gunplay in Fallout 3 is not good. You have a percentage chance to hit enemies and you will miss point-blank shots that logic tells you should connect because the game will determine otherwise. This kind of thing works fine for a top-down turn-based game like Fallout 1 and 2, but when you are shooting enemies from the first-person or third-person perspective, it just feels more frustrating than anything else. Enemies also do not react realistically to getting shot, even by the standards of the time. A lot of the time, shooting them barely seems to slow them down at all, and this results in bullets not feeling like they have much impact as they should. Having said that, the Vault-Tec automated targeting system, or V.A.T.S for short, is fucking awesome. Fallout 1 and 2 had a precise aiming mode where you would select specific body parts on various enemies that you wanted to shoot. It gave you a percentage chance to hit and let you attempt to shoot said body part. The system came back in Fallout 3 via V.A.T.S. When you activate V.A.T.S, the game pauses time and shows you all the body parts that you can select and gives you a percentage chance to shoot it. You select the body parts that you want to shoot and fire. It carries out the attacks in slow motion. V.A.T.S will let you target any non-groin part of the body as well as enemy weapons. You can cripple enemy body parts and knock weapons out of his or her hands. If you cripple the arms, they will have more trouble aiming. If you cripple the legs, they will move slower. If you shoot the weapon out of their hands, they will either try to pick up another weapon, giving you time to shoot them as they do it, or they will charge at you for a melee attack that you can attempt to avoid. This offers strategy to the game's combat and winds up making the combat itself a lot more tolerable than it would be otherwise. Killing enemies with V.A.T.S can and frequently does result in slow-mo, gory kills that are a lot of fun to watch and never seem to get old. Many have criticized V.A.T.S as an automatic win button. To an extent, I see where this argument is coming from. You can use it to deal a good amount of damage to enemies while taking less, but you cannot spam it. It runs on action points much like your turns did in Fallout 1 and 2. When that is drained, you cannot use it until it is recharged. There is one problem for console players though. The menu to select body parts on the console is clunky as hell. I believe this is one of the primary inspirations behind V.A.T.S pausing time. Selecting the body part you want to is nowhere near as smooth as it should be, and it can be frustrating to do so, especially when you are at an odd angle from the monster in question. There are multiple weapon types to choose from. If you want to be a bare-knuckle brawler and punch enemies to death, you can do that. V.A.T.S will work with this, and there are skills for this specific type of build. There are even punching weapons that you can use. There are guns, of course, that is the most common type of build, but there are melee weapons such as swords, bats, and clubs that you can use. Much like the other two weapon types, V.A.T.S will work with this type of character, and it has specific skills for this type of build. If you decide to go the guns route, there are a lot of options available to you. There are pistols, machine guns, rifles, laser weapons, and various types of heavy weapons for you to play around with. Each weapon has their own uses, so you can experiment with them to see what all you like. Some heavier weapons such as missile launchers and the Fat Man do have limited ammo, so you have to use them more sparingly. Still, experiment with different weapons and find out what style of play works for you. The game also has various types of skills to accommodate stealth builds. There are a variety of weapons to take enemies out silently. There are stealth boys to turn invisible for periods of time. There is sneaking mode for attempting to stay out of sight. And there are skills to help you with all of this. You can use these to play thief or sniper types if you wish. Beyond all of this, you also have a wide variety of light, medium, and heavy armor types. Lighter armor types let you move faster, but it offers less protection. Heavier armor types offer far more protection at the cost of movement speed. You will take damage at some point over the course of this game, so pick the armor type that is right for you. I personally always go with power armor. There's a healing system in place as well. Unlike many RPGs, the healing system in this game is not as simple as using healing items and instantly being better. Much like enemies, your limbs can be crippled as well. You will need to heal specific limbs when this happens. Otherwise, your movement speed, aiming, or vision will be affected. To heal, you go into the menu and apply stim packs to specific limbs. For more general healing, you can eat and drink any kind of food or liquid that you find. These will give you a small amount of health, but they will also give you small doses of radiation as well. There are two other options for healing as well. Each major town in the game does have a doctor somewhere within. You can speak to them and ask them to heal you. They can mend crippled limbs as well. This method will cost you. You can also sleep in a bed of some sort. This will heal you, but you'll always get the best sleep on your own bed. If you happen to buy a house, visit it and sleep for at least 8 hours for minor bonuses to your stat for a while, thanks to the well-rested status. Speaking of radiation, you will need to keep an eye on your radiation level as well. As you travel throughout the wasteland, you will run across radioactive spots that will increase your radiation level. Eating food or drinking liquid to regain health will also increase your radiation level. You can eventually contract radiation poisoning. If this happens, you will need to heal your radiation. You have two options for this. You can visit one of the doctors in one of the towns and ask him or her to heal your radiation, or you can take some rat away and heal the radiation that way. Each major town in the game has its own unique look and feel. They are all full of interesting characters to talk to and pick up marked and unmarked quests from, and they all have doctors that can heal and get medical supplies from, and shops where you can buy and sell items. Each town gives you plenty more to see and do if you wish. There is plenty more to explore beyond that as well. The game also has a weapon damage and repair system. Weapons and armor wear down with use and become less effective and less powerful. They can even wind up breaking, and they will need to be repaired. Weapons that you pick up off of enemies are also worn down to various levels and will need to be repaired. The theory behind this is that they are all 200-plus-year-old weapons, so they haven't been in peak condition for a long time. They are worn down and nowhere near as accurate as they would have been if you had picked them up brand new. This works pretty well, and a lot of the weapons you can pick up off of enemies are pretty weak, especially in the early game. This can be a little bit frustrating early on, but as you get weapons repaired and in good condition, the frustration will alleviate. There are two methods you can use to repair your items. Weapon and armor vendors in various towns such as Flak and Shrapnel in Rivet City and Moira Brown in Megaton can repair your equipment for you, or you can level up your repair skill and learn to do it yourself. Having someone else do it for you will cost you money. As long as you have multiples of the same item and high enough repair skill, you can repair your equipment yourself. What you're basically doing is taking parts from one weapon or piece of armor and using it to repair another weapon or piece of armor. But the game boils it down to going into the inventory in your Pip-Boy and hitting the repair button. The most important aspect of gameplay and the best part of the game is the dialogue system. The sheer amount of dialogue in this game and the fact that all of it is voice acted is truly impressive, especially for 2008. The way the dialogue system works is that you will approach a character and start a conversation with them. They will say something, and a dialogue box will pop up with a list of replies that you can select from. You select how you want your character to reply, and the person you are talking to responds to it. It sounds simple, but it is surprisingly deep. First off, there are a lot of replies for the vast majority of conversations you can have in this game. You can direct conversation in a variety of ways through your replies to NCPs. The conversation can then alter the direction of the storylines of the quests or side quests that you're currently working on. You can have real, meaningful conversations with what feels like most of the characters in the game, and it is probably my favorite aspect of the Fallout series in general, as well as Western RPGs as a whole. If that were not enough depth, you get specific dialogue options based on your skills, perks, and stats. Some conversations will give you specific options relating to stats such as strength and intelligence, while others will give you options based on skills and perks such as science or child at heart. You can even get some specific humorous dialogue options if you choose to intentionally make your character stupid. Getting different dialogue options on different playthroughs based on your different character builds adds a ton to this game's replayability. There is a karma system that is partially tied to the dialogue options as well. It is also tied to various choices that you make in the main quest and in the side quests as well. It is a very simple system, but it works for what it is. It lets you know that you're sticking to a good guy path or a bad guy path if that's what you choose to play. You gain good karma points for good actions and bad karma points for bad actions. Some people do not like it because it is the game directly judging you, but that never bothered me, to be honest. I always kind of liked it. NCPs in the game will also react to you in different ways depending upon your current karma level. It is not a perfect system, however. There are some actions that you can take over the course of the game that you would think would be unforgivable. You can nuke an entire town out of existence, for example. You would think that there is no coming back from that, but you can work your karma level back up to good even after something like that, and the people will pretty much act as if it never happened. That seems like something that should permanently give you bad karma. If you listen to the radio station, you can hear Three Dog read off news reports from all over the wasteland. He can and will read off news on what you do over the course of the game, and he will let you know what he thinks of what you've done. If he thinks you've done something good, he will mention it. If he thinks you've done something bad, he will rebuke you for it as well. I always loved this about the game, as it gives much more weight to your actions throughout it. The game also has a robust leveling system with quite a bit of depth to it. It lets you build your character how you see fit. With each level you gain, you get a set number of skill points to dump into your skills, and you get 1 point to dump into the perk of your choice. There's a lot of perks, and you will unlock more as you level up. This allows for a lot of flexibility in your character builds. The base game has a level cap of 20, with the Broken Steel DLC that is increased to 30. This limits how you can build your character, so you may want to plan ahead if you want to build certain character types. This game has magazines and books that give you permanent stat and skill boosts, as well as bobbleheads that you can collect that will also give you permanent stat and skill boosts. All of this combines to let you build a character that is truly unique to you. I've heard a lot of people complain that this game is not an RPG, and I just do not see how that is true in any sense at all. Between the level up system allowing you to build your character how you want, and all the choice you make over the course of the game and in side quests, it is about as RPG as it gets. Want to be a bare knuckle boxer that beats up everything in sight? You can do that. Want to be a sword master that hacks everything to bits? You can do that. Want to be a sharpshooter? You can. Want to be a slaver? You can. Want to kill damn near everything that moves in the wasteland? It's not easy, but you can do it. Want to be the wasteland's own personal Jesus? You can do that too. There's plenty of opportunity to roleplay in this game. Where does this complaint even come from? I don't get it. This game is a decade old, and graphically it does look it. On a technical level, it was never the most impressive game out there, and it has not aged particularly well. Textures are blurry and low resolution. NCPs do not look all that great, and they never did. They have this fakey, plasticky look to them, and the animations are janky as hell. The sheer scope of the game is impressive, though. The draw distance was pretty good, especially for a console game from that era. And the world is absolutely huge. It will take you some time to explore all of it. In this sense, the game did impress when it was brand new. The idea of gigantic open worlds with this kind of draw distance was still brand new to consoles at the time, so it was simply mind-blowing in 2008. For those of you that played the PC version over the console version, you can alleviate a lot of the graphical woes through the use of mods. There are a lot of graphical overhaul mods for you to download and try out that will give you a vastly improved look, with a lot more detail in the environments and models. You can make this game look gorgeous if you wish. Having said that, the aesthetic for this game is beautiful in a sense. It presents you with a barren world that was absolutely devastated when the bombs fell. There are little pockets of civilization, and it really drives home just how harsh the environment in the capital wasteland really is. It really helps with the atmosphere of loneliness and the daily struggle that people face here. This wasteland is as desperate as it is dangerous. The first Fallout had a lot of Gothic architecture, and this features a fair amount of it as well. It carries the look from the first game and brings it to a fully 3D environment that you can explore from the first or third person. This really helps with the exploration aspect of the game, and it makes the world around you much prettier and much more fascinating. I love this aspect. Sound design holds up a lot better than graphics do. The game has an ambient soundtrack that is moody and extremely atmospheric. This may very well have the best sense of atmosphere of the entire series thanks to a combination of the aesthetic and the ambient music. It is very foreboding, lonely, and desperate, and it makes it one of the most fun, if dreary, games to explore that I have ever played. The voice acting is more of a mixed bag. None of it is particularly bad except for a stray line or two, and you get some big-name voice actors that are great. Liam Neeson plays your father in this game, and he's very homely and fatherly. You get the sense that he is very loving to his son or daughter. Malcolm McDowell plays President Eden, and he is awesome as well. He is always so calm, cool, and collected. He never seems to shout or get angry. You always get this sense that there is something off about him every single time you listen to him. It is an excellent performance that really stands out in this game. Probably the most standout performance in Fallout 3, however, is Eric Dellums as the over-the-top DJ on Galaxy News Radio, 3Dog. 3Dog is legitimately one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise, and Dellums' performance in the role is a huge part of the reason why. He's so full of personality, and I fucking love him. Beyond that, however, you start to run into the game's big problems with voice acting. Much like Oblivion before, you will run into the same voices for different characters over and over and over again. The more you hear the certain voices, the more you will notice it and the more distracting it will become. I guess that's the nature of having a game this size with so many voice characters in it. But it never stops being distracting when you hear the same voice actor voicing his or her 10th character. Sound effects range from merely appropriate to pretty damn good. It may surprise you how much oomph the gun sound effects have behind them, given how off the gunplay is, but they do tend to be loud and powerful sounding more often than not. It's surprising that the melee weapons do not fare as well, though, with things like the baseball bat not having quite the impact that they should. Galaxy News Radio is a stroke of brilliance by Bethesda. Bethesda took the idea for the first two Fallout games where they used music from the 40s and 50s for their intro and just ran with it. They decided to create an entire radio station that plays nothing but old swing music and the like, in between 3Dog reading off news. And it is just so much fun to listen to. I know the lyrics to a bunch of songs from the 40s and 50s, and this game is the reason why. The happy music creates a nice dichotomy between it and the ultra-violent combat. The game lets you listen to stuff like Roy Brown while you're blowing up super mutants, and I wouldn't have it any other way. If you play without the music, it can lose something. This is what I did when I recorded my gameplay. I did it for copyright reasons, and I can tell you that I certainly missed 3Dog as I was playing it. It's nice to turn off the radio once in a while and just drench yourself in the atmosphere, though. That can be fun too. The game had 5 downloadable content expansions after release. Unlike the main campaign, I am not going to go super in-depth on their content and their stories here. Hell, this review is long enough as it is. But I will discuss them in the order that I rank them, starting with the worst and working my way to the best. Operation Anchorage sees you getting a signal from the Outcasts. They want help in an old military base that they are raiding. As it turns out, there's another Tranquility Lounger type thing that places you in a simulated world. They want someone to complete the simulation so that they can access the tech that is hidden away by it. This sim requires someone with a Pip-Boy, and that means you. The bulk of this DLC is in the simulation. It is much more combat focused than it is story focused. As mentioned above, the combat is the weakest aspect of this game. It is a rather short add-on pack, and it sees you playing the role of a soldier in the liberation of Anchorage, Alaska. There's a few choices and some light dialogue, but the main reason that this is even worth completing at all is to get some sweet gear at the end of it. It is nice to get a glimpse at the world before the bombs fell, though. Mothership Zeta sees you receiving a strange distress signal from out of the middle of nowhere. As soon as you track down the source of the signal, you find a crashed alien ship similar to the one in the first Fallout. You approach it and immediately get abducted by aliens. You wake up in a prison cell with another person, and you and her have to try to find a way to escape. The rest of the DLC is fighting aliens as you try to find a way off the ship. This gives you very cool weapons. It is mostly linear and plays like a corridor shooter. It is more substantial than Operation Anchorage, but it is just about as light on story as that one is. This is very combat focused, but the audio logs on this ship are interesting. You can listen to the aliens interrogating people from a wide variety of time periods. It also presents a very clean and pristine environment, a sharp contrast from the rest of the game. Broken Steel. I have already mentioned this one before. It fixes a plot hole that I discussed with the ending of the game and continues the main story, unlike the other 4 DLC packs. You wake up weeks later in the Brotherhood Citadel and find out that the Brotherhood is trying to wipe out the remnants of the Enclave. They send you out on a variety of missions as you battle and try to find out where the last stronghold is. This one is more story-driven than the previous 2 I mentioned. It gives you another choice at the end of it that changes how it all ends, and it wraps up the story better than the original ending did. It gives you new weapons to play with as well. It also increases the level cap from 20 to 30. This is the ending Fallout 3 deserved, and I'm glad we did eventually get it. The Pit sees you getting a distress signal from a man named Werner. He wants someone to go to another city to deal with the problems that he and his people are having. The city winds up being the ruins of Pittsburgh, and everyone in it is either a slave, forced to work in the steel mills, or a slaver forcing people to work. There's a plague that transforms people into monsters. He has you dressed like a slave and sneaks you into the city. If the main game left you with any doubt that Bethesda could get Fallout right, this DLC should have quelled that thought. This is an excellent DLC with some great writing, likable characters, a new map to explore, and a great moral choice at the end of it. If you have not played this before, it will take you to some surprising places. It has one downfall though, and that is searching for the ingots. You get a lot of cool gear and unique weapons by doing this, but the act of searching every nook and cranny in the steel yard to find them all gets very tedious very fast. Still, this is a great piece of DLC. Point Lookout is the most substantial of the DLCs, and can easily take you upwards of 6 hours or more to do everything in it. In it, you find a woman that is looking for her daughter who took a ferry from the capital Wasteland to Point Lookout in Maryland. From there's a lot of story involving 2 dueling intellectuals, a cult, the trail of a Chinese spy, and a lot of other things for you to see as you explore the map. There's a lot to do in Point Lookout. It presents you with a couple of good moral choices. This, in my opinion, is some of the best writing that Bethesda has ever done. Make sure you explore everything and do everything there is to do in this DLC. It is well worth your time. This is Fallout done 100% right. It strikes a perfect balance between the humorous side of Fallout and the much more serious side while presenting a world and atmosphere that is very different from the main game. It is easily my favorite of the 5 DLCs, and I would highly recommend any Fallout fan give it a playthrough. There are a number of common complaints about this game that I would like to address. One of the most common is the Brotherhood of Steel, and I'm not entirely sure why people complain about them in this game. The Brotherhood of Steel did branch out to different parts of the country. We learned this in Fallout Tactics, which takes place in Chicago. Why then do people complain about the Brotherhood being in DC in the first place? It makes no sense. As previously stated, Elder Lyons leads this branch of the Brotherhood of Steel. After arriving in a DC area, they had to deal with the super mutants. He realized the super mutant problem in Washington, D.C. was rather severe, and he decided to have the Brotherhood help the people of the capital wasteland. There were parts of the Brotherhood of Steel that were not happy with this decision. They felt it strayed too far from the original purpose of the group, and they decided to leave and form their own group. Under the leadership of Protector Kasdan, they formed the Outcast and started trying to make contact with the Brotherhood out west. Speaking of the Brotherhood out west, when they heard what Elder Lyons had decided to do, they decided to cut off contact with this branch of the Brotherhood. Because of this decision, you could even argue that this branch of the Brotherhood of Steel isn't even the Brotherhood of Steel anymore. If that is the case, why do people have any problem with them at all? The biggest problem that people seem to have with this chapterhood of the Brotherhood is that they are not isolationists anymore. When you approach their citadel before Dr. Lee gets you in, they will barely talk to you. So they are not accepting of outsiders. They do recruit some outsiders into their ranks, though, and they help locals by fighting against the super mutant hordes. Here's what I do not get, though. Elder Lyons' decisions prior to this game is basically the same as the Brotherhood in Fallout 1. In that game, you convince them to leave their bunker and help with the super mutant threat. The only real difference here is that the decision was made beforehand instead of you talking them into it. Why do people have such a problem with this when it was not a problem in Fallout 1? Another baffling complaint that people have about this game is that there's no player choice. I showed through my talking about the main story that there is quite a bit of it, and there is more in the side quests too. People say that none of it is morally gray either. This is also untrue. It would take some time to explain every single morally gray choice in this game, and this review is going on long enough as is. As such, I will walk you through one of the game's side quests as an example and explain exactly how the choice you make in it is not a black and white choice. I'm going to walk you through the side quest called Those. This is the great little side quest that serves as a reference to the classic giant monster movie Them. As you travel throughout the capital wasteland, you will eventually be approached by a young boy named Brian Wilkes. He is terrified and he mumbles to you about monsters that are out to get him. They scare him. Offer to help him and he will say that he's from a town called Grey Ditch. It was overrun with some sort of monsters and he wants you to help him find his parents. You can ask about the town if you wish, but tell him that you will help him find out what's happened to his parents. He mentions that the monsters are ants that they showed up a few months earlier. Tell him to find a place to hide and make your way to Grey Ditch. When you arrive in Grey Ditch, you will find that they aren't just ants. They are giant ants that breathe fire. Search throughout the town and you will find his parents' house, where you will discover that they are dead. You will find Brian in a portable fallout shelter near the town diner. Tell him the tragic news and you can end the quest here if you want. I chose to tell him that I would discover what happened to this town. There's a little shack beside one of the houses. Enter it and pick up the tape inside. Give it a listen and find out about a guy named Dr. Lesko. He mentions the password to his terminal, which is also in the shack. Log into the terminal and read his entries on it. One of them mentions that he moved his work to the Marigold subway station. The entrance to it is also in the town, so let's pay it a visit. Search through the tunnels and you will eventually find Dr. Lesko. He is startled to see you. He came down here to carry out his experiments in peace, and he refers to this as a highly delicate experimentation area. He is carrying out experiments down here in hopes of reducing the size of the giant ants. He wants to introduce a mutagen into their colony that will reduce their size to that of a normal pre-war ant over generations. Things have not gone according to plan, however. Instead of reducing their size, he accidentally gave them the ability to breathe fire. They went nuts and basically murdered everyone in Grey Ditch. Intentional or unintentional, this guy definitely has blood on his hands now, at least indirectly. He is responsible for this town's demise, essentially. He's not giving up, though. He is down here continuing his experiments, or he would be if he could get to his terminal. He cannot get anywhere near it right now because it is in a chamber near the Ant Queen. She is guarded by 4 guardian ants, and he wants you to dispatch of those 4 to get to the terminal to continue his experiments. The choice here is whether you decide to kill the queen or not. Okay, let's examine this choice. If you decide to kill the Ant Queen, you may very well stop this strain of fire-breathing ants here as soon as the last of them die out or are killed off. These things killed an entire town of people, so it may very well be worth doing. His research will stop, though, and he will not be able to accomplish his goal. Is it worth stopping the research when you know his goal is a noble one? If you spare the Ant Queen, his research can continue. He will continue to try to turn the ants back to their normal size, which could very well benefit the wasteland in the long run. He has already screwed up once, however, and it cost human lives. You have no guarantee that he won't screw up again and potentially make things even worse than they already are. There are moral justifications that can be made for both choices that you can make here, so this is definitely a morally gray choice. I have been assured over and over again that this game completely lacks in these, but this is one of numerous ones that you will make over the course of the main quest and side quests. Make your choice. I ultimately decided to spare the queen. After returning to Brian, you get a final choice to make. You can once again end the quest here and he'll go back to living in his old house, or you can find him a new place to live. You have a few options there. You can take him to Lamplight Caverns if you wish. He has family in Rivet City that can take him in, or you can sell him into slavery if you are doing a bad guy playthrough. I have heard a lot of people complain that the writing in this game is bad. This one is kind of subjective, so what can I really say here? As I pointed out, the main quest is definitely not perfect. I pointed out some problems with it, but it has amazing moments as well. The March with Liberty Prime is badass, and the moment that you step out of the vault is absolutely perfect. Side quests such as Oasis, Stealing Independence, and Agatha's Song have some great writing, I think, and some very memorable moments. The Replicated Man deals with the synth, the railroad, and the Institute, who would become major players in Fallout 4. The more you explore in this game, and the more marked and unmarked quests you will find, and the more you will get out of the experience. I think there are plenty of instances of great writing. This game excels in environmental storytelling as well. What do they eat? Some have said that this is a major strike against the game. People seem to be under the impression that there is literally nothing growing in the capital wasteland. Trees don't, but this is not entirely true. There's a lot of tall grass for the insects and livestock to eat. You can hear insects at night, and there are Brahmin pens. Arfu has one, Canterbury Commons has one as well. Rivet City can fish and capture mirelurks for food. The game does provide answers for what they eat for those paying attention. The complete lack of farms is a major oversight by Bethesda, however. I won't deny that. How does the economy work? This is another question that you have to piece together with clues that are left for you because the game never flat out tells you. There's a basic form of capitalism in place. Bottle caps are the currency as they have a unique shape that makes them difficult to replicate, and there's a finite number of them. They are not backed by anything, though, which is a problem. I do have a theory on how bottle caps came to be the currency of the capital wasteland. Follow me here. When the Brotherhood left California and traveled east to Washington, D.C., they would not have brought new California Republic money with them. It would have been useless outside of NCR territory. Before the NCR formed, however, bottle caps were a standard currency. I believe that the Brotherhood brought bottle caps with them instead of NCR money to the capital wasteland to trade with the locals, and this may have been the catalyst for them becoming the currency of the capital wasteland. There are trade routes as well. If you travel to Canterbury Commons, they mentioned that there are small trade caravans that go from settlement to settlement and trade between them. Different settlements have different items worth trading. Arafu and Canterbury Commons both have Brahmin. Rivet City has seafood. Megaton has easy access to water that they could trade as well. The game does give you clues as to how the economy works, and you can piece enough together to get a general idea for it. Why is Megaton built around a bomb? This one seems to bother a lot of people, but the answer is staring you right in the face from the moment that you get near the bomb. If you see that pool of water in the crater that the bomb formed, that water means that there is groundwater in Megaton. That groundwater allows them to set up a pumping station and provide running water to the entire town. Your answer really is that simple. Why are there rad scorpions in Washington, D.C.? The game flat out gives you the answer to this question, so I don't know why I've seen so many people complain about it over the years. Go to Tenpenny Tower. Log into Herbert Daring Dashwood's computer terminal. Read his entries on it, and you have your answer. They evolved from emperor scorpions, which were commonly found in pet stores. People have a problem with the intro to the game. I both agree and disagree with this particular complaint. Let me explain. I think that the intro works pretty well as intended. It is essentially a tutorial that teaches you the various mechanics of the game in a way that feels at least somewhat natural and true to the nature of Fallout. Think about it. This game introduced Fallout and its mechanics to millions of gamers, and it needed to teach them the core mechanics of the series, such as the special system, player choice, and combat. It accomplishes this well, in my opinion. Selecting your character's starting stats is done through an easy-to-understand children's book. The first choice you make is a simple one with no lasting consequences, as you decide what to do with a sweet roll. Your dad gives you a BB gun for your birthday, and that introduces you to combat. The skills system is introduced through the GOAT exam. Escaping the vault gives you both melee weapons and a handgun to try out both play styles. It teaches you everything you need to know while fleshing out your dad as a character. Each time you play through it, you do play through the same events, but you shape your personality through the dialogue choices that you make. It gives you set pieces to play through and allows you to decide how to play, allowing you to play your character how you want within the admittedly limited confines of the tutorial. In this sense, I feel like it accomplishes what it set out to do very well. Having said that, it can become a problem on repeat playthroughs. You will have to play through the exact same intro each time, playing through the exact same events over and over again. When you already know how the game works, it loses a lot of its point. An option to skip the intro and set up your character starting with the moment that you leave the vault would have been appreciated. Another common complaint about this game seems to be the misconception that the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave have the same goal, so they should not be enemies. This completely ignores basically all context given within the game. Both sides want to start the purifier. This much is true, but where they differ is in why they want to do this. Dr. Lee and her team just want to provide clean water to the capital wasteland, but the Enclave are much more authoritarian than that. They want to use it as a means of controlling the local populace. The two sides definitely do not see eye to eye, and this is why they are enemies. Them working together would not make any sense at all. In previous games, raiders had their own separate groups and names with characters. They tended to work together and have goals. That is really not the case here. They do have camps that they set up and live in, There is even an indoor city inside a big factory called Evergreen Mills that is entirely made up of raiders. But there are no raider factions, and there is only one faction in the game that you can join at all, the Brotherhood of Steel. This is unfortunate. You can't even join the Enclave. In the lower left corner of the screen there is a compass that shows you nearby locations on your map, quest markers, and any marker that you set on the map yourself. I've heard it said that the game trains you to pay attention to this and that you miss the world around you. I have beaten the game 3 times now, and I have never found this to be the case. I pay attention to the world around me and occasionally glance at it to make sure that I'm still going in the right direction. It is a useful tool for navigation, but it is not something that I find myself paying more attention to over the game's environments. I never got this complaint. I think I've gone on long enough. I could go further. There's a lot more about this game that I could talk about. But this video is already extremely long. Fallout 3 is not a perfect game. It has flaws for sure. The combat is not great, the writing has a few problems, and it was never the most beautiful game on a technical level. It is janky and buggy. Despite all that, however, it is still stellar. Fallout 3 is a great RPG, and it is worthy of the name Fallout. There is so much to see and do in this game. It is one of Bethesda's best games alongside Morrowind, and it definitely does not deserve the negative reputation that it has garnered over the years. This is the masterpiece you remember it being. Fallout 3 is available on PC, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3. For PC, you can get it on Good Old Games or Steam, but the PC version does come with a caveat. You have to deal with games for Windows Live, and it is not optimized to run on modern multi-core processors. You may have problems getting it to run. The console versions, you will have no problem getting it to run. If you do play the console version, however, play the Xbox 360 version if you can. The PlayStation 3 version has some frame rate issues and a shorter draw distance and less pretty graphics that are not present on the Xbox 360 version. The Xbox 360 version does run better. You can also run the Xbox 360 version on the Xbox One or the Xbox One X, allowing you to play it in 4K if you want to, which is kind of awesome. But if you do play the console version, you also miss out on mods. So it's really up to you of what way you want to play this game. Just do play it. It's great. Thank you everybody for watching. If you stuck through it, through all of that, thank you even more. I know this was a long one. Happy 10th anniversary Fallout. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell to be notified when I upload content, and if you could share this video, it would help me out a lot. Until next time, I have been the Doom Dog. Talk to you guys next time.